25.12 is hit live servers, so let's get you guys set up with the best solo carry champions for every single role. And let's be honest, picking the best champions is fun, but is that really enough on its own? I don't know about you, but locking in Sivir just because she's on the solo carry list doesn't really help if you're lacking sufficient knowledge as an ADC. However, you can begin stomping your way out of low elo when using our brand new Bronze to Diamond course that goes hard in teaching you everything you need to know to succeed as an ADC, which will have you speedrunning any game below Diamond, using the tactics our multi-role challenger player Hector has used to climb to the apex of the ranked ladder. And that's just for ADC! Your mid lane solo carry Diana pick becomes actually unstoppable when you know all the essentials of mid lane thanks to the new 6-part mid lane series over on our platform that our top 10 challenger player Strompist has tirelessly worked on exclusive to our members. Our tier list gets you the right champions, SkillCapped gets you the right skills. And we're so confident it works, if you don't climb 5 divisions while actively using the platform, you literally don't pay a single cent. So why hold yourself back this season and finally get the rank you deserve? And with that being said, let's get into it. So starting things off up in the top lane, a champ you really need to consider picking up right now, especially if you're Emerald or below, is Kayle. Kayle is such a great champ for the lower ranks because her scaling is incredible. However, her early game is highly underrated as well. Level 1 with Kayle is actually absurd due to her passive attack speed and attack speed from lethal tempo, so abusing this is key to getting the most out of the champ. We already showed you guys this clip of our challenger top laner Strompist abusing Kayle's level 1 in our recent updated tier list, but for those of you who missed it, let's have a listen again.
Now, people may not know this about Kayle, but she actually has one of the strongest level 1s in the game, assuming you actually get to hit someone. Now, the thing about lethal tempo is this is really OP for like early on, later on as well, but especially like pre-6, Kayle, like you get 6% attack speed instead of 4% because you're a melee champion. So what I like to do here is I like to start E. You can go Doran's Blade, you can go Doran's Ring, and you kind of just want to fight the enemy top laner. So if I can find this guy before he gets to reach his wave, then I just win. So here I'm just going to fight this guy because I know I win. I'm going to pop my potion a little bit early. I'm going to use my E there. And then I have max stacks from my passive. And yeah, he's just dead. Can you imagine doing that to an Irelia as Kayle? Normally, no. But if you know your champion's limits, you can just do that. I mean,
so if you're able to get early kills like this with Kayle, then the champ actually becomes unstoppable. So learning your matchups and playing Kayle to her limits will have you climbing the ranks incredibly fast. In that game, Strompist was running the Rageblade Rush on his Kayle, which is good if you're really proficient on your Kayle, but for the average player, we would recommend going with Nashor's just for more upfront damage and less reliance on immaculate auto weaving. So for the core build, a Nashor's Rush into Lichbane 2nd and Rabadon's 3rd is a really strong setup. Now, funny enough, even though Strompist showed you that you can solo kill Aurelia level 1, it is the matchup that Kayle players have the worst win rate against. So now that you know you can beat Aurelia at level 1 though, you don't really have to use your ban on her and can instead allocate it to someone like Jax, who is actually a bit more difficult to manage as his E completely counters Kayle's trading power. For the rune page on Kayle, you can take lethal tempo or press the attack. Which one you take really comes down to matchup knowledge and knowing your limits. If you're in a lane to where you can trade aggressively at level 1, then lethal tempo is superior. In matchups where you want shorter trades and are less confident in your level 1 all-in, going for PTA will work best. Another top lane champ who has an exceptionally strong level 1 that if you can master will have you climbing the ladder in no time is Sett. Trundle, who theoretically should beat most champs level 1 due to being able to reduce his opponent's AD with his Q, doesn't even beat Sett at level 1, and here's a quick look at this in action from one of Strompist's recent Sett game.
But my W has a lot of damage potential here, so we're actually just gonna probably start W here because kind of want to use it after the trade, and if possible I would like to just fight him straight up. Okay, so this is fine, I got him away from the wave, all right, and then we just win. Okay, so it's very important that I get him away from the wave. If I don't get him away from the wave, the enemy minions will just smack me. And also, he didn't flash my W. If he flashed my W, I would have to return flash and flash it as well. So that's also another factor. Here I kind of just want to base here and just really get out of this lane. And the reason Sett wins stat checks is because he has, of his passive, he has like 2 auto attacks. In fact, the second auto attack, unlike Lucian has a weaker second auto attack. Sett has a stronger second auto attack. It deals additional damage. So Yeah, just a very, very strong champion.
So something that Strumpus is a huge advocate of is really abusing the limits of your champions and not just sitting around in lane, farming, and hoping that you eventually scale up to be useful later on. Of course, certain champs like Malphite or Ornn can't just fight anyone at level 1, but this is why the likes of Sett and Kayle are so strong for solo queue, because they can fight right at level 1 and snowball extremely hard. For the meta build on Sett right now, look to grab Stridebreaker with Overlord's Bloodmail 2nd and Warmog's 3rd. It's Conqueror for the Keystone Rune with Triumph, Alacrity, and Last Stand, while Second Wind and Unflinching are for secondaries. With Jax getting buffed for this patch, it's a pretty good ban for Sett, because with Jax E, it is a matchup where winning at level 1 is much more difficult. And then one of the best all-around solo carries up in the top lane for 25.12 is Shen. With Shen, his 1v1 can be quite good, but it's his map impact that really sets him apart from other top laners. Shen is one of the few top laners who can win lane and then actually spread that advantage across the map by using his global R. There's even a new, more offensive build that's been going around on Shen recently, and it consists of taking Flicker Blades as your second item. By going Flicker Blades, you end up putting your Q on such a short cooldown and have it up constantly when skirmishing. Reducing W cooldown is massive as well if you're playing into an auto attack reliant champ. So if you're more so looking to side lane and want more threat in the 1v1, then Titanic Rush into Flicker Blade 2nd is a really good core build right now. You can still go Heartsteel though in games where you're behind or if you aren't able to win the 1v1 matchup. Sett is the only meta matchup that Shen players are losing to at a considerable rate, so he's a good ban to consider right now. The rune page for Shen consists of Grasp with Shield Bash, Second Wind, and Overgrowth, followed by Biscuits and Approach Velocity for secondaries. Moving on to jungle now, our first solo carry of the patch is going to be Warwick. What makes Warwick so good for solo queue, and especially the lower elos, is that he can react to plays better than all other junglers due to his movement speed from W. This allows you to pick up so many more kills throughout the early game that other junglers just wouldn't be able to get, and allows for Warwick to be so active around the map. Playing off R cooldown when you have it is really important with Warwick, and as long as enemies are not directly sitting under their tower, with the movement speed from W and gap close from R, executing ganks should be relatively simple. Here's a look at how your post 6 gank should look like from our challenger jungler Jap import.
We have ult up in 15. I'm just gonna look to use that like basically right away and punish the no flash on Cass. She buffers the thing again, maybe, or she doesn't have it. I don't know if my Zir just like isn't paying attention or what. Okay, he hit it. I was waiting for her to use that, and she just never did.
So leading with E and then saving R for if the enemy flashes away is how the majority of your ganks should look, as long as you're able to use the movement speed from W to get right up to the enemy and hit your E first. The core build for Warwick is going to consist of a Stridebreaker Rush into Blade of the Ruined King 2nd. Roll with Lethal Tempo for the Keystone Rune, followed by Triumph, Alacrity, and Last Stand, while Celerity and Water Walking are for secondaries. Good bans to consider when playing any type of melee fighter right now are Braum and Lulu, as they are being played a ton in meta and their disruptive power does a good job at shutting down a champ like Warwick. Another top tier fighter jungler in meta for 25.12 is Volibear. Volibear and Warwick are very similar in theme, as they are two of the best skirmishing junglers, so you can really take matters into your hands with both champs. Volibear is thriving regardless of the elo, so whether you're high or low elo right now, he's an all-around exceptional pick. It's his hybrid build setup of Cosmic Drive and Flicker Blades that provides him with incredible dueling threat. If you get a lead and are going for this build on Volley, then you just stat check everyone with your consistent damage output. Most Volley players are sleeping on this rune page right now, as what's been working best for him lately but not seeing a ton of play is Inspiration in secondaries. It's Lethal Tempo for the Keystone Rune, and then you grab Free Boots and Jack of all trades for secondaries. Jack of all trades has great value with this hybrid Volley build. For your ban when picking Volley, you really can't go wrong with Braum or Lulu right now, as they continue to dominate the support meta and are very annoying to play against with Volibear. And for the third solo carry jungler of the patch, we rounded out with Nocturne. Nocturne is one of the easier junglers to find success with in solo queue because of how easy it is to execute his game plan. With Noc, all you gotta do is play around your R cooldown, and if you can do that, you're going to find success. Full clearing so that you can reach your 6 as soon as possible is going to be the play for the majority of your games on Noc, as you only want to early gank if you know for sure it's going to result in a kill. And then at 6, it's all about playing around whichever lane you feel will provide the best follow-up for your ganks. Whichever lane has the most crowd control is generally going to be the best lane for you to prioritize. Getting used to tracking flash cooldowns is something that can be really useful when playing Nocturne, because if enemies don't have flash and you have your R are available, it's as much of a guaranteed kill as you're gonna get. For Nocturne's core build, you should be taking Stridebreaker into Hexblade second and Black Cleaver third. It's Conqueror for the Keystone Rune with Triumph, Alacrity, and Last Stand, followed by Grizzly Mementos and Ultimate Hunter for secondaries. And then once again, for all three of our solo carry junglers this patch, using your ban on Lulu or Braum is going to be of great value, as they will make your dive threat a lot less threatening in the mid to late game. Moving on to mid lane now, the best assassin mid laner for 25.12 is Diana. Diana has one of the best level 6 skirmishes for any assassin, but her early all-in strength can be just as powerful. The fact that Diana can use 2 charges of E when she lands a Q makes her level 2 all-in potential really good. If you're in the lower ranks, playing off of this level 2 alone should have you climbing in no time. Let's have a look at how our challenger mid laner Shori uses Diana's level 2 spike to score an early kill.
Step up, just Q him, step back. He QQs the wave. That is a very big mistake. He should not use his QQ like that. I will take E level 2 and then try to go for a big trade with him. He's dead. Nice. Yeah, I don't really know what that was all about. He thought he would hit level 2, but he just never killed the minion.
So, Hui was above half health, but hitting him with Q and then following with both E charges and Ignite is enough to score the kill. As Shori mentioned, Hui actually did get kind of unlucky because he needed that one minion to die to hit level 2, and if it did, he probably would have survived, which is why he looks kind of boosted there, but nevertheless, the takeaway is that using your level 2 advantage on Diana to at least chunk the enemy out is really key. To maximize Diana's all-in power at level 2, you're going to want to be taking Electrocute for the Keystone Rune, with Sudden Impact, Grizzly Mementos, and Treasure Hunter, followed by Mana Flow and Scorch for secondaries. If you're in melee matchups though, the value of Bone Plating goes up drastically, so you can look to take it in those specific matchups. For Diana's build, a Storm Surge Rush into Shadow Flame second is standard stuff. However, you can go Rocket Belt into Lichbane if you're playing into a more bruiser or tank enemy comp. And then for Diana's matchups in solo queue, Galio is never a bad ban choice, as his tankiness and point and click taunt makes it more difficult to succeed as Diana. So back in the top 3 for mid lane in 25.12 is going to be Vex. With the recent nerfs to Rod of Ages along with direct nerfs to Ahri, we've seen a lot of Vex's more difficult matchups drop off in play rate. Victor, Hui, and Ahri are all mages that Vex would rather not play into, so with less of them in meta, it's great for her. LeBlanc is buffed for this patch, so we'll be seeing more of her, and that's a matchup Vex has always had an absolutely amazing time in. Vex loves playing into melee champs, as it's really only longer range mages who can be of more difficulties. So using your ban on Mel or Lux is good value when picking Vex. For the meta build on Vex right now, ever since Storm Surge got buffed, it has been outperforming Shadow Flame in that second slot. So a Luden's Rush into Storm Surge second is the core you will want to be playing for 25.12. As for Vex's rune page, you want to grab Electrocute with Taste of Blood, Grizzly Mementos, and Ultimate Hunter, followed by Mana Flow and Transcendence for secondaries. A mid laner who has seen a really nice boost in power recently and rounding out the top 3 is Vladimir. Vlad is such a strong mid laner right now due to the 25.12 AP item changes, but not enough players are actually building him correctly. So many Vlad players are still rushing Cosmic Drive, but because of the buffs to Rocket Belt, it's just way more optimal as his rush item now. A very interesting second item that we are seeing played to some really good success on Vlad right now is actually Crypt Bloom. The haste on Crypt Bloom got buffed recently, so it's become a more enticing pickup for Vlad. As a matter of fact, Crypt Bloom is actually Vlad's highest win rate second item at the moment, so it's being slept on quite heavily. So this new setup is giving Vlad a lot of life, and he's gained a ton of relative power recently because of it. In regards to Vlad's matchups in meta, always a good ban to consider is Malzahar, as he makes team fighting with Vlad very difficult and forces you into buying a QSS if you want to have any chance of being useful. You have 2 options for Keystone Runes on Vlad, being Phase Rush and Airy. Phase Rush is optimal when playing into a comp that's more difficult to reach, so for example, if they are longer ranged mages or have a ton of dashes. Into lesser mobile comps, or if you just want stronger kill threat in lane, Airy is the superior choice. So to kick off the top 3 for ADC this patch, we've got Tristana. Something that really sets Trist apart from the majority of ADCs is her superior dueling power at level 6. Few ADCs can match the 1v1 power of Trist at 6, so you should be laser focused on taking advantage of that. We have a good clip from our Challenger ADC 6-Axe to showcase this, so let's have a look.
So now only Nico can be here. I'm ready to eat some poke here if she was on time. She ends up opening mid, which gives me an opportunity to either do one of 2 things. One is roam mid, but I feel like the play is already over. And 2 is all in the MF. And I really like all-inning the MF because my champ's better at all-ins than his. But I didn't have my Q here, so I was hesitant to go in early. Try to predict his flash there a bit. But not quite able to. But anyway, I use my ult and get the kill.
So recognizing that the enemy support roamed mid and that Trist wins the straight up 1v1 against MF allowed for 6x to score a free kill to start a snowball. And that's how you're going to succeed with Trist. It's about finding those small windows of opportunity where the enemy support is split from their ADC, and then punishing that with Tristana's long range from W. For the build on Tristana, you can run either the Collector or Yuntal Rush. Yuntal is going to be the best for most games. However, if you do score an early kill in lane and really want to accelerate that advantage but base with less than 1300 gold, going towards the Collector is a viable play. Second item will be Infinity Edge, and then Flicker Blades is slotted in third. For Trist's rune page, you should be taking Lethal Tempo with Triumph, Alacrity, and Cutdown, followed by Free Boots and Biscuits for secondaries. If there's one ADC you want to avoid when picking Trist, it would be Xayah, as her R does a good job at countering Trist's engage potential. However, Xayah isn't being played much in meta at all right now, so she isn't really worth a ban. Instead, using your ban on a highly played support who can halt your all-in power like Lulu is a good idea. An ADC who is in a great spot right now, who not a lot of players are taking advantage of, is Sivir. Sivir is still one of the lower play rate ADCs despite her continued direct buffs, and has climbed up to holding one of the highest win rates for any ADC. We don't expect for this to last all that long though, so be sure to jump on the train before it leaves the station. Sivir is one of the more self-sufficient ADCs in the game, which is great for solo queue because you rely less on your team to succeed. The pushing power from Q and W allows for Sivir to farm effortlessly, and this makes it way easier for you to get your CS numbers up. Often what holds lower elo ADCs back from climbing is their inconsistency when it comes to farming, but with Sivir, she makes that way easier. The 2-item core for Sivir right now just feels amazing as it's Yuntal into Infinity Edge. The common theme among all the best ADCs in meta right now is that they abuse this core build as it just offers up so much value on 2 items. You have an incredible amount of burst threat, but your consistent damage is not really lacking either due to the passive attack speed from Yuntal. Since Sivir lacks a gap closer, her only major weakness is being exploited by long-range engage, and for this reason, using your ban on a meta dive champ like Diana or Jarvan is good value. Your rune page on Sivir should consist of Lethal Tempo with Presence of Mind, Alacrity, and Cutdown, while Absolute Focus and Gathering Storm are the best secondaries. And then for our third solo carry ADC of the patch, we've got Jinx. So Jinx has been one of the most consistently powerful ADCs all season long, and it really just stems from her being one of the best users of the Yuntal into Infinity Edge build. Jinx was originally one of the first ADCs to hop on Yuntal before it became meta, and ever since the item was buffed, she's been a top tier ADC. As an ADC player, learning to play around your power spikes is extremely important because the majority of your value comes from dealing damage, and having completed items are going to provide you that. With a tank like Malphite, whether you have a full item completed or not doesn't really matter as much because the value from hitting a multi-man R does not come from having certain items completed. Dealing damage is directly correlated to what items you have though, so if you're close to hitting your 2-item spike in the mid game, just stalling out and farming up and not trying to force anything before you get there is really important. It's especially important when the game state is relatively even because you being on 2 completed items while the enemy ADC is stuck on 1 can be an absolute game changer in a close fight. Since Jinx is a more vulnerable ADC who lacks a gap closer, banning out a meta dive champ like Jarvan or Diana is a good idea. The rune page for Jinx revolves around Lethal Tempo with Presence of Mind, Bloodline, and Cutdown, while Absolute Focus and Gathering Storm are for secondaries. For support in 25.12, a mainstay in the top 3 for a while now has been Braum. Since Braum has been on the solo carry list for multiple patches in a row, instead of talking about why he's here, let's break down a nice laning trick you can use on your supports. If you get an early kill in lane and are still relatively healthy, something you can look to do on support to really snowball an advantage for your ADC is not resetting and holding the wave. To show you this in action, let's have a look at one of Rhino's games on Braum, as this clip is from a Grandmaster's Elo game, and we will speed it up a bit since there's a lot of good information he covers.
And you can see right there, we basically got everything that I was talking about off. Oh, close, close, close. Okay, so Varus getting his base off is really good and important here. I'm actually kind of going to stay to try and be as annoying as I can to the enemy bot lane on so they're going to clear this, and they're going to one-shot this wave, or try to, and they're going to reset, or try to, and I'm going to do my best to stop that. So I'm going to, once they clear this wave, I'm going to hold their wave from hitting the tower, and they're going to have to make a decision whether or not they're okay with that happening and recalling, or if they want to stop me. See, Triss just made the decision that she was okay with recalling, and now her wave is in a horrifically bad position. I'm going to start recalling in this push now. This whole wave is going to be denied from them because of the fact that I stayed, essentially. And stopping Tristana's base is actually not even... You'll notice that I didn't really try very hard to stop Trist's base, because both situations are great for us. Either she has to stay, and then can not find a good recall opportunity, and then we have a Varus who has recalled, versus the lane of Tristana and Soraka, who both haven't recalled, and then they have to stay, and they're kind of trapped in lane, right? That's the sort of idea of that. Or she bases and she gets denied. She got denied a full wave, which is fantastic also. And then I can just base.
So this will be most practical in situations where you get an early kill on the enemy support. Your ADC wants to reset, but the enemy ADC wants to stay and shove out the next wave. Instead of resetting with your ADC, you can stay and hold the wave for your ADC to set up a freeze. Now, of course, if the enemy bot lane walks up and tries to stop you, then you'll have to just let the wave crash. But in the lower elos especially, oftentimes they won't contest you at all, and you can just set up a nice freeze for your ADC. This is easier to do with Braum because he can tank a lot more damage with his E active, but you can do it on anyone. For your build on Braum, you should be running a Locket Rush into Knight's Vow second and Solstice Slay for the item upgrade. Rune Page revolves around Guardian with Font of Life, Bone Plating, and Unflinching, while Biscuits and Cosmic Insight are for secondaries. Morgana is always a pretty good band to consider when picking Braum, as she can use her Black Shield to negate your stun, which makes Braum's skirmish a lot less potent. So cracking the top 3 for support in 25.12 is going to be Elise. When it comes down to an aggressive melee support, there's nobody better than Elise right now. She was indirectly buffed for 25.10 due to the Storm Surge buffs, and was not negatively influenced by the recent AP ratio nerf to her passive. The all-in threat of Elise if she can land her E is absolutely insane, and in this clip here, we can see this in action from one of Rhino's Elise commentaries from last season.
Oh, there we go. Perfect. So well played. So well played.
So if you get ahead with the Elise support, then you can basically just begin solo killing the enemy ADC and taking matters into your own hands, which makes her such a great solo queue support. For your build on Elise support, look to run Storm Surge with Shadow Flame as the core, and then take Bloodsong for the item upgrade. Rune Page on Elise should consist of Electrocute with Sudden Impact, Deep Ward, and Relentless Hunter, while Triumph and Coup de Grace are for secondaries. Braum is a good band to consider when picking Elise, as his kit does a good job at countering Elise's all-in power. The best enchanter support for solo queue for yet another patch is going to be Nami. Nami is such a great enchanter because her early laning is actually one of her strengths. Most other enchanters don't really offer up a ton during the first few levels, but with Nami, she can be a lot more proactive, looking for trades with W and slowly chipping away at the enemy's health bar. The early to mid-game snowball power with Nami is also incredibly strong, as she can provide her ADC with a ton of additional damage due to her E and Imperial Mandate. ADCs like Lucian and Tristana already have great all-in power on their own, but when paired with a Nami, the burst power is on another level. Mandate is the only must-buy item on Nami, as from then on out, it's really situational as to what you purchase, with Moonstone, Shirelia's, Ardent Censer, and Mikhail's all being viable second items. For Nami's Rune Page, you will want to take Aerie with Mana Flow, Transcendence, and Scorch, followed by Bone Plating and Revitalize for secondaries. Nami wants to avoid playing into supports with strong catch power, so banning out Nautilus or Thresh is good value for the current meta. Alright guys, one last thing, our rank up guarantee is insane. It's like signing up for the gym and getting a refund if you don't get ripped. That's how confident we are in SkillCapped. We obsess over making the best guides with top players, rigorous testing, and top-tier video editing to make your climb easy. If you're ready to level up, visit SkillCapped.com and see the difference. So that's gonna wrap everything up for the 25.12 update on the best solo carries. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.